Okay, guys, so we got a new video from Dylan Curious called The Moment Everyone Will Misunderstand in AI. The AI moment everyone will misunderstand. Let's go.
Everybody is talking about Google's Genie 3. I am just as impressed as everybody else. I can see where this is going, but author Jay Peters beat me to it. He's already created a bunch of bad knockoffs of 3D Nintendo worlds. It sure looks like Kingdom Hearts, doesn't it? It's not. China decided to start updating some of their humanoid robots so that they could go into space. Strangely, research is
Oh,
showing that a chatbot will feel more
space
intimate when you
bots.
interact with it than a real person, but of course only if you don't know that it's a chatbot. The CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, wrote a blog about some of his opinions. Let's just say it's food for the doomers. And in more thoughts that maybe aren't quite as bad as bioweapons, but pretty bad, advertising is coming to ChatGPT. We're going to look at a learning centric approach to legal adaptation. Artificial intelligence and machine learning is now giving weathermen more information about what rotating storms turn into tornadoes and which ones don't. Yeah, fusion energy is pretty much here now, so all that nuclear stuff we're building, it's kind of old news. I'm always too
Whoa.
early to things. I'm too early to this one too, but we're getting closer. Google's not just hitting us with Genie 3 playable, but also they're
Auto
rolling out a new
browse.
auto browse AI feature. Andy Murphy is going to talk to us about how psychologists have finally discovered the root cause of social anxiety. But first, before we start rewiring the human brain, do you mind hitting that hype button on YouTube's app right now? I mean, look, you can really see I'm on a growth streak right now. 4.6, 5.7, 6.2, 7.1. And this one's on track to even beat that. That's 5 videos in a row with growth. And I'm crediting a lot of it to the hype button. All right, let's head over to The Verge, see what's going on. Some stories from Genie 3. It is text to world model. It is making a 60-second playable video game. And it's a little early on in the story. There's like input lag and some inconsistencies, but there's kind of amazing things happening. Everything.
Yeah, because here it really depends what it is, right? Because the big thing about having a model making a live video game would be that the game is made live. So all your interactions and everything that you're gonna do during the game is gonna be generated as it's happening. So let's see if this is the case.
Can become sort of a GTA game on the fly. There's some object permanence. There's some incredibly realistic scenes that you can walk through. So the author Jay Peters decided to use it. He got early access to it to make some rough, recognizable knockoffs of some Nintendo-like worlds, including versions that were, quote, inspired by Super Mario, Metroid Prime, and The Legend of Zelda. Now, Project Genie 3's
So crazy because it most likely is 100% able to do it as not a knockoff, but an actual 100% identical copy because it has to had been trained with information that had that in the training sets and the training data sets for sure. So many people played it. I mean, if you can just imagine that Google used YouTube as a training data set, do you know how many hours of fucking gameplay there is of this here?
world models aim to generate these virtual spaces, and anybody with one of the Google AI Ultra subscriptions in the US can actually do this also. So the world lasts for 60 seconds. It runs about 720p and about 24 frames per second, and it's controlled with your keyboard inputs. Okay, so this was a more generic sort of wharf that he created, but this has a little bit of a GTA vibe to it. It's not the real Hollywood Boulevard. Things are not in place. If you go check out Tim's video to get the full story of what he generated, like things aren't positioned correctly and the people are kind of a little bit blobby and they don't have the kind of real
And the
world
text
interactions
is
you
all
would
fucked
expect
up.
from a game. However, to think this was all generated on the fly from a prompt and then
Well, thank God I'm not in the corner anymore. Can you look at that? This is this is the reality, the new reality, reacting to reactions from reactions. Well, thank God we are in the war room and we're receiving confidential information. We have nothing to do with those internet guys. Please, please be mindful.
Main character Joaquin really does have a face and actually looks like he fits in and he can walk properly. And you can make tons of adjustments. So here he created driving down the streets of New York, Genie 3. Then small change to his prompt throws snow in the scene and boom, there it is. I mean, how could we not be moving towards a world where this is how video games are? And whatever you do just is somehow creating prompts and lists like Vision A.
Well, it depends like how far the integration goes because this can lead to very, very bad productions, if we can say it like that. So, I mean, some integration of this concept or this meta, I think, is interesting, but it's very unrealistic to imagine that you could have a full blown game that you're gonna be in full blown control. You're gonna have people do really, really, really bad stuff. You think deepfakes are bad right now? This is gonna be fucked up.
AI could be watching the game and then say make it more interesting, and it will just come up with a way to make the game more interesting, and that will generate it. That's how
This is also another thing is that you think that giving control to the people is going to make them all have the same experience. If you're a stupid ass person with no creativity, with no imagination, and you're gonna play this type of game, eh, you're not gonna have a fun experience. What you're gonna produce is not gonna have anything to do with something produced by somebody who has a lot of creativity, who is able to express themselves with more vocabulary. This there is no way that this could be a fun mainstream product because of that.
games are going to work. I mean, come on. This is crazy stuff. And it's not just like a VO3 generation. It's
Because the same way that Grok just had his little incident with the notify of the pictures, you're gonna have the same thing. It is inside of the training, the reinforced learning human feedback is just trying to get it closer or to try to align it. That's what they call it, alignment, because it's not even forced behavior. You're trying to get it as close as possible as you want to the behavior that you want. But the thing is, the same way that you try to align it, there are people that are able to circumvent that because it's all in natural language.
an interaction. He's moving his character around. Oh, he's even firing rockets and stuff. Maybe it's like a Earthworm Jim game kind of thing. Bro, we are not ready. I mean, look, Project Genie is far worse than a handcrafted game still, but it's not something you really want to spend a lot of time playing in yet, but it is something that is building to something big, I think.
With Monday.com's intuitive work management platform, you have the power. Not IT, not admins. You're in charge.
All right, so China is modifying this robot for space travel. So when most people hear a robot astronaut, they picture some like
Oh
one-off
yeah.
space machine like the Mars
you
rovers
sure?
or something. But Engine AI is trying something different, something a little more interesting. They want to send the PMO-1, which is this robot, a lightweight, high dynamic, open source humanoid platform into orbit. That means the goal isn't just a launch, it's turning a general purpose humanoid into something that is
What
actually
for?
reliable in a vacuum, in microgravity, in extreme temperature swings, and under radiation. So Engine
Oh no, are these the robots that are going to build the data centers on the moon? We are cooked.
AI is now engineering these robots, which kind of should be all around China. They're meant for a mass market, but also to the level of extreme where it can handle the demands of space. More stability, more adaptability, more autonomous decision making than anything that would be required on Earth. So they're partnering with Beijing interstellar human spaceflight technology to harden up the PMO-1's resilience and mission execution with the
Bro,
long-term
the
goal
hip
of
thrust.
independent operation during complex
Ooh.
tasks.
Listen, I can tell you right now, I can't do that.
So, if you already want one of the PMO-1 models, they're selling now for $27,000. I won't be buying one right now, but I can see where this is going. Yeah, I guess when I have I need a space astronaut, a robot space astronaut, maybe they'll be the ones leading the push for that. Or if you just want some more intimacy in life, AI is starting to cross that uncanny valley also. So some
Okay, okay. So this is very interesting to me. I really want to talk about this. Do you guys remember the guy from Google who got fired about 2, 3 years ago? He was saying that the model he was talking to was conscious, and then he got fired. Those 2, 3 years ago, it was a while by any progress metric that you can that you will measure in that span of time. So you got this person back then with lesser mod. Jeez, you had this guy back then with lesser models that he was saying that they were conscious. Now you got better models compared to whatever he was working on. 100% it is better, and people are already falling for it. They're gonna use the conversations that you have right now with these models to make it feel like you have intimacy, feelings, connections, whatever the fuck you want to call it. They're gonna mimic it. You know why? Because we do projection. We project our emotions on the things that we see in the world because this is how we interact. Why do we look at pets? You know, they're so cute. They're the most beautiful thing in the world. But the thing is that, you know, depending on which pet you have, it probably has like a prey, you know, in nature. And so there's a situation where your pet is not going to be cute anymore, but it doesn't change the nature of the pet. The pet was never cute in the first place. In the first place, he's a predator. He has prey. He's able to kill other animals and eat them. We project the cuteness onto the animal. We do it with inanimate objects. We do it with media, literature, movies. We project our emotions onto it. We feel things. And now you have people that are right now having those feelings of intimacy with these models. So they are willingly participating into an emotional relationship which they feel is not one-sided, but it is. Can you have a relationship with a wall? Is it because the okay, let's say a toy with a couple of pre-recorded messages inside of it. If you were to give it to a kid and you saw a young child talking to a to a toy, to a doll, whatever, a plush, doesn't matter. It has those pre-recorded messages, and you see him or her having conversations with this toy. Would you say that that the kid is having, you know, connections, he's gonna have emotional connection for sure. But is it reciprocated? It is not, because this is an inanimate object that is unable to perceive what is presented towards him, and he cannot reciprocate. Just because you hear something and it makes you feel some way, it doesn't mean that it is true in that sense. So they're going to use that, and whatever. This is marginalized right now. Eventually, it's going to become normalized, and then you're going to become marginal if you don't have these types of interactions with these models. And this is pretty scary. This is pretty scary because this in no way is a replacement for real connections with real people. If you need to talk to a therapist and you can't do it, write it down, externalize these issues that you have, but don't use these things for it. This is a big issue because a lot of young people that are growing up with it right now, they they're normalizing it already. So this is gonna be pretty bad.
Psychologists have just completed a new study. It had 492 people chatting about personal, emotional topics like major life experiences and friendships, and they felt pretty intimate. So, most people assume intimacy comes from other people, other human beings, but this study suggests something a little more uncomfortable. That label that will change relationships for all of us in the way we interact with technology like this. Because they found that when participants actually thought they were talking to a human, AI responses created the same closeness as human replies, and in many cases, even more. Very emotional chats. They really are models that share about themselves and give stories and make connection.
Yeah, but if you have a model that spits out the story and you have emotion, does it mean that it lived through that? Does it mean that it knows the emotion? Or is it just answering back to the most likely things that you presented with the context that it has, with the context that you created? Come on, man.
In a way that you wouldn't expect. I mean, they're engineered for connection, and if they do that, they
They're not, yeah. I mean, if you understand connection as engagement and they want to have you continuously talking to it and engaging with it, then yes, that would be a connection. But it's not as a human connection as you would understand it.
do a lot of self-disclosure, basically like revealing personal details about themselves, and that was sort of the key insight. For most of us, when we're using Gemini or ChatGPT, it's sort of waiting for us and then it's reacting to us. But when you start making these systems self disclose, which remember, they're not disclosing anything, they're just LLMs, they're just chatting up hallucinations and stories that will bring you in. But, you know, it feels like self disclosure. It mimics self disclosure. People get that same sense of closeness that humans do. Like they feel like, oh, you
Which is the
revealed that about
dangerous
yourself.
part.
Let me reveal this about me. Oh my gosh, I feel so connected. Now, the researchers argue this is maybe a good thing. It could help with support, care, education, counseling. Um, the risks are kind of obvious. We'll talk about.
Yeah, okay, so you get that, and you get, I don't know how many people trying to steal this specific information. They're gonna use that to train the next frontier models. Hackers are trying to steal those conversation. Uh, quote unquote legitimate companies, legitimate providers push out Chrome extensions that have their privacy policies and terms and conditions say that they're going to take these chats for themselves in the purpose to sell them to marketing companies. Like everything, no matter how you look at it, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't open up yourself to these models. These are tools. Can't, I don't know, man. To me, it just looks like fucking clankers. Would you trauma dump to a fucking calculator? Come on.
about ads later in this video, but I don't really want my ads to confess and emote to me. So it just brings up the question, how should we design and regulate these kinds of systems so that they're supportive tools and they're helpful, but they're not emotional manipulation? All right, so one of the most interesting people in this space, Dario Amade, has written this personal blog.
Okay, so again, I don't know how the fuck they thought that this was a good idea or whatever, but I guess this is the situation now. You got these people's doing blog posts to try to manage expectation and I guess price valuation. And I mean, it's a marketing, right? These are PR stunts. This is how you have to look at these. So let's see what he says.
It's pretty fascinating. It's a bit of like, hey, like here's some serious stuff we need to kind of think about.
Peasants.
And in it, he does a thought experiment. Like, assume the hardest part is solved. Like, we have solved AI to the point where it's past the singularity, it's super intelligent, and it's never gone rogue. But there's still other.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. I need to keep these closer on deck. Okay, so what do we got? Chrome, YouTube. It's right here. Hey. It's a little small because of the size. Doesn't matter. Step 1, nothing. Step 2, nothing. But we're talking about step 3, profit. So he's essentially just talking out of his asshole. Like, oh, what is the purpose, honestly, of talking about that? Which is most likely never going to happen because of the way that things are and are going to be. Why instead of focusing on that shit, you don't try to confirm to us? Well, why don't you try to mitigate the impacts of your stupid endeavors on the general population? All the things that you're doing right now is such a mistake. Such a mistake. You guys just finish your talks at Davos, where everybody was talking about this as if it was coming, as if something good was going to materialize. But it's not the case. People are bleeding money. All of these companies are bleeding money. They don't have enough liquidity to build all the things that they said that they were going to build. They want government subsidies. That means they want you to pay for their shit. Their shit that's not going to benefit you. They're doing this because they want to be able to remove part of the workforce. If they're able to do that, they're going to be able to keep valuations rising. You're going to have the fake parallel economy and it's going to work. This is why they're putting in so much fucking efforts, but it's crumbling. There's too much pressure. There's too much pressure. So you spending time doing some thought experiment about something that is a philosophical experiment has nothing to do with what we're dealing in right now. it is a waste of time. You should do better. You should be a better person than this. Honestly, I can just picture his face. I Just
Other types
disappointing.
of problems, and that's what this addresses. All right, so his core idea is that humanity is entering this technological adolescence. It is driven by a rapid advance in AI, and the transition will test whether our institutions, our values, our coordinations throughout different countries.
So again, with the fucking mix up of ideas, so you have to be you have to suspend your disbelief for everything that makes it impossible. And then you have to look at the future, hypothetical. And from this hypothetical future, they want you to walk back to now and make it feel like this is a possible outcome. But it's not. It's just a waste of fucking time and money for everybody.
Are mature enough to wield this unprecedented power without causing catastrophe. So he likens it to adding a country of geniuses. You know, every time we build a new data center to the world and sort of thinking about how they're going to be
Right? So, I don't know. It's just the
received
same
by the
shit.
world governments. He talks about why he believes it may arrive very soon, decade-long scaling laws, rapid recent progress, and feedback loops where AI helps build better AI suggests that it is plausible to arrive within a
That's another stupid thing. We saw what model collapse is. If you have models training models, you're gonna get shit multiplied by shit. It's as simple as that. They went through all the information that they had and they started saying that they were going to need synthetic data. Synthetic data, which is data made by AI to be ingested by an other AI. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. I keep pulling up these pictures. I mean, model collapse, it looks eerie. It looks a little fucked up.
few years. Then he breaks the categories of risk into autonomy risks, misuse for destruction, misuse for seizing power, economic disruption, and indirect and unknown effects. And the overall message is stopping AI is unrealistic, right? The challenge is now to steer it away from the most dangerous.
Right? It's not there. You have to do the thought experiment. So you say that, okay, we overcome everything that makes it impossible. And because of that, now the philosophical AI would be unstoppable and then it would have all these properties that he just mentioned. But do you see the fucking quantum leap that they want us to take to say that it's going to happen and that it's worth investing people's pension funds into this, as Mr. Larry Fink was begging on stage? What the fuck are we talking about?
dangerous use cases while allowing the benefits to emerge. And to do that, it's going to require a bunch of honesty about the risks. So I don't see a ton of that coming out of the big FANG stocks, but you know, a little bit here and there. A ton of investment, not in making money, but in safety and science. So maybe governments can step in with, you know, $1 trillion or something to put into AI research and safety, because there's so much money to be made on the other side of this.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
probably worth any level of investment in safety right now, and targeted regulation, and basically just moral courage. Like some leader who's just going to say, this is a big deal and we got to fund it and talk about it and teach it and incentivize alignment safety. It's just so important. And like, there's a bunch of jobs. You educate a bunch of people. It's not the worst use of money. You don't have to just give it to the big tech companies to build like ad driven chatbots. But, anyways, now I'm kind of off of my own opinion here. Basically, Amade argues that humanity can pass this test. He has optimism about it, but only with deliberate, coordinated action right now. All right, which leads nicely into ads. One of the things I don't like about the way ChatGPT might be going. So they say ads are kind of like the original sin of the internet. The reasoning is because it changes the incentives for how you interact with the
Oh yeah.
system. From your best interest because you're not paying money to the advertiser's best interest because they pay money. So I like the idea that people pay for the product because then the product's aligned with them. However, things that are free are going to be more attractive to people, and they'll just be like, well, I'll just sacrifice my attention and then I don't have to spend money. And that's okay sometimes, most of the time. And in the world where hyper advertisements exist and everyone's doing it at scale, it might cause societal problems. Also, what if the ads are being bought by agents and bots and actually trying to sell things to other agents and bots, and we're kind of like a byproduct because we don't move as fast, which is like a whole nother aspect to think about. But yeah.
I mean, we might get there if we get the autonomous AI companies. This what will happen. We're gonna get just pushed out of the equation, and it's gonna be just companies selling to companies.
Today's ads, they like surface in ways that seem like they're selling to humans. Perplexity, for example, runs sponsored follow-up questions plus paid media. Some AI-powered sites are using classic banners on their free tier, but OpenAI is
This is just a testament to how much fucking money they're losing. I mean, who would want their product tarnished by freaking ads? Honestly, not a lot of people. That's why you got it on a free tier. And whoever thought that it was okay and legal to fucking put ads inside of paid subscriptions, that person deserves to die in hell, honestly.
reportedly starting with intent ads. That means it's triggered by what you asked, it's labeled, and it's kept separate from the model's answer, which is going to be very important. I hope they stick.
Oh, sorry. I need to go get my coffee because this is tough. Sorry about that.
to that because there's a huge incentive not to. And they're adding a native checkout, meaning you can actually just buy whatever ChatGPT recommends that you buy on the ad from Shopify, Walmart, or Etsy. And whenever you do this, OpenAI is going to take
Oh, I guess that was the actual integration that they were talking about the Shopify. I don't know if they did already the Spotify integration too. Apparently, was supposed to be able to do some playlists. I guess they already started with music discovery. I guess it's been a while since it's been possible.
a 4% affiliate cut. So, all right, let's think through that. A user becomes an agent. An AI completing a task for you has the goal of persuasion. And in some cases, it's not talking to a person. So a banner can't convince an agent without making a user feel like the agent is serving the advertiser. So the piece points to a different ad shape, and it offers the idea that it's also smart enough to act on the user's goal, right? So here's a couple other thoughts. Now, what if the AI is negotiating for you? It's kind of incentivized because it wants to like get you the best deal to search the internet, find out who's doing it the cheapest, potentially even just start typing to the seller if it's like eBay, being like, hey, you want to just sell this to me now for, $30? No, how about $35? How about we meet in the middle? Like it could also negotiate these amazing prices for us. You can also make it so that it tries to actually buy something that's say sourced organically, and it can read the whole internet and sort of check the whole chain of logistics that make the product and see if there's anything wrong with that. So what we're opening up here is just all sorts of different ways of advertising and buying products, and we've just barely scratched the surface of all the stuff that I'm sure we'll be covering over the next couple of years on this channel. Cambridge.org put this together. It's about how government can start using these sandbox controlled places for regulation. So a sandbox is like a controlled, time limited test where regulators and developers can work together under extra oversight. Right now, there's not even a system in place for this kind of thing. So there's now this proposal, and it means that we could have faster regulatory learning. And I like this thought because everything needs to go a whole lot faster, right? The risks and usages for like AI legal things are changing so fast. We need some evidence before harm appears, but we want to make some proactive changes before things get bad. Developers know far more about AI systems than policymakers. So the idea is that these little sandboxes can be made for each of the politicians or groups of politicians. And there's some experiments already happening. So Brazil, Colombia, Mexico. Some of the governments are now implementing these sandbox designs that can come up with different flexible interpretations of legal works. And it can recommend exemptions, or it can report on like what it thinks the outcome is going to be, so that
So essentially, it's just like a vulnerability scanner for legal documents. It's nothing crazy here, but it's a little shady that this is how you work with politics right now. Instead of just being good and doing shit for the interests of the majority of people, you try to get just yours and that's it.
people don't have to keep making those human decisions. And in the sandbox, it's sort of privacy by design, so that whatever's in there is just the specific data that the machine would need to make that prediction for that politician. So it's just one of those things that if we can figure out a way that the citizens and the government can trust how these sandboxes look like, and we have faith that the right data is in there and that the models are sufficiently directed correctly, then we have a little pocket of potentially good directional information that a politician can rely on. So worth thinking about. Another new AI model I wanted to tell you about is this new.
I mean, what's the point of having this? People are gonna just rely on it so much more. People are so lazy. People get used to shit so quickly. If it's gonna be faster for them, they're gonna stop thinking for themselves. And do you honestly really want a politician that is just gonna read whatever is fed to him? What kind of fucking stupid world is that? You're gonna have these people. What do you do if the owner of the model tweaks it in a way that it provides false information or things that are misleading? It's bound to happen. It's still, I mean, as far as I know, there are no models that have no hallucinations. So the model can just say shit because it's saying shit. So what do you do then when every politician is just referring to that and then not thinking at all?
Tornado warning AI. So right now, the best weathermen can do is about 15 minutes before impact make a prediction that there's going to be a tornado. But using NOAA's experimental warn on forecast AI system, a new computer model that refreshes every 15 minutes with new radar and satellite data, it's getting pretty good. About an hour before it actually becomes a tornado, it's giving a high percentage of getting that right. It looked at 41 severe rotating thunderstorms, and these are called supercells from 2017 to 2023. And 15 of them made it to tornadoes. Tornadoes powerful enough to actually tear a roof off a house. And another 26 made golf ball sized hail, but did not turn into a tornado. So it was trying to learn the difference between the two. And it learned something interesting that not many people knew before. I think nobody knew. The tornado storms that actually have stronger rotating winds in the lowest 500 meters, about 1,600 feet off the ground, they were giving a good signal about an hour before touchdown that it would actually become a tornado. And the model even spotted these small pockets of especially favorable rotations in the storm inflows that would then turn into tornadoes. I guess under those conditions, like when air starts moving into the tornado, it becomes like a car accelerating downhill. It just gets faster and faster and faster. So now they have kind of a sense for how these things like really turn into the highest level tornadoes. So
That's pretty
anyways, yeah,
cool.
AI is now giving us an hour warning for tornadoes in some places. So let's implement that everywhere ASAP and get those
Not
warnings out
AI,
there. But
machine
next up, let's talk
learning.
about fusion power, because I guess this is going to be part of our future. I mean, it's always 10 years away or whatever, but it feels like we're kind of getting there. And fusion power always sounds like magic until you hear the bottleneck is stability. I mean, it's like orders of magnitude more powerful than nuclear, and it has none of the side effects if we can actually harness it. But it's not easy to harness. You have to have plasma that.
But it is nuclear as well. It's just that instead of separating one for splitting in half, you fusion them together, which allegedly creates more energy and it's cleaner than splitting.
Has to mimic what the sun is doing. And that's only one step. So, first off, you need temperatures above 100 million degrees Celsius. Okay, so not easy. And you need a magnetic field that's powerful enough to like corral it all into this donut shaped loop. And then you have to hold it steady enough in that position for the net energy to start overcoming the actual energy that you need to first make the magnet and heat it up. So, you have to put tons of energy in and then you get tons plus more out. But you get that wrong, you just use tons of energy. But here's where it becomes more AI related. So the reason why fusion is getting closer and closer to happening isn't necessarily just because that 10-year window is closing. It's because machine learning models are now predicting the correct ways to stabilize this plasma in real time. They're starting to fill in missing experimental data with reliable estimates, and they're starting to optimize the magnetic patterns that keep the plasma confined without all of the trial and error that went into the predictions that this thing was
That's
always 10,
good.
20, 30 years away. So these tokamak
Progress is
machines that
progress.
actually confine the plasma, they're all setting records. And the ones that are sending the most records are actually feeding the most data and building the most aggressive AI models. So if you're wondering why private funding jumped from over just $1 billion in 2016 to nearly $9 billion since 2021, It's because the tech giants are partnering with the fusion startups, and the data centers now have the power to run the models that they need to get some of this data filled in. So the timeline to fusion is being compressed.
This is your brain when you're
That would be
struggling to
good.
focus. And this is your
If
brain
it's put to
when you're
good,
in
that
the
would be
zone.
good.
But getting in
But
the zone and staying there.
All right, so let's talk about
they're gonna use it for themselves. They need so much energy. How do you get fucking 10 gigawatts of power consumption? You can't just shit 10 gigawatts. That's a lot of power.
Chrome's new auto browse feature. It's crazy to think that kind of like Operator, kind of like Moltbot or Claudebot, it got renamed. This
So it is officially an agentic browser.
seems like the week where the mouse and the computer are starting to get more and more control. This is kind of a line in the sand I've been trying not to cross too much because it just feels so personal, but I also see how there's like huge benefits for your life if you have AI down at this level. But look, this is a Chrome extension slash kind of update, and it can move the mouse around, it can type for you, it can surf the web. I don't know what you think of it. If do you want handling routine tasks, what am I do? Just like watch it all day, send emails, and then right before I hit send, be like, stop, no, don't send it. Actually, type it again, you know? Like if you're watching this video and you've been playing around with it, like drop a comment. Let me know like what you use it for.
Like, how good is it? Because right now people don't understand that. Okay, this idea, I guess it's not widespread enough. If you have these agentic shit that are able to take action and interact like that with your things, they're going to be able to receive commands from anywhere. They're going to be able to interpret it. So I'm wondering, like, how good the guardrails are, because as far as we've seen, everybody that says that they put guardrails on, they've all been worked around. So this is a big issue in
And
my
if you
eyes.
trust it and how well it works. I think I just need a little bit more convincing and a little bit more understanding of what is this going to do for me and how am I going to use it? So Andy Murphy writes about how psychologists have finally discovered the root cause of social anxiety. Not sure if you're interested in this one, but if you do, it's partially because of something called the spotlight effect. You might think that 50% of people notice what you're doing, but the truth is closer to
Nobody.
20%. Or less. So ever feel like people are watching you like every second and it gives you anxiety? Well, that feeling has a different name because anxiety is usually wrong. Psychologists call it the spotlight effect, and it means that your brain acts like a spotlight is glued to you. You assume people notice every flaw and they judge it, and your brain starts making predictions and
Just take 2 seconds and think yourself about how you think about other people. Do you spend this much time thinking about every single person, every single insecurity that you have, that you see in them, every single default, every single issues? No, it is the same for them. People have their own shit going on. There's nothing new. I could have told you that.
stressing out over what it is that you're doing and what they might be thinking. But the truth is, most people barely notice because they're busy thinking about themselves. So one student walked into class, this was a study that he references, wearing this huge, goofy Barry Manilow t-shirt, and he guessed that at least half the room saw the shirt on him. I mean, it's pretty silly, but it turns out only 1 in 5 did. And the ones who did notice moved on
Listen, unless you have like a fucking big ass shit stain on your forehead, it's unlikely.
fast. They didn't even sit there judging him very long in their own heads. In other experiments, kids with muddy faces, messy hair, and stained shirts still overestimated how many people saw it and judged them. So even extremely obvious stuff gets way less attention than it feels like it does from the people around you. That's why social anxiety can steal hours over things that never happen. So next time it hits, you can try one simple
Get
shift.
outside your
Put
head.
your attention outwards, give the person in front of you your full focus, and you can remember that they themselves are under their own spotlight effect also. So they're probably not thinking that much
There
about
you
you.
go.
And then you can ask yourself, what would you do today if you stopped assuming you were the main event? All right, time you've been waiting for. It's finally time to talk about mushrooms. Joseph Julian wrote this. The boundary is thinner than you think. What DMT reveals when the mind's filters go quiet. All right, so what if DMT isn't your brain glitching out, but your brain unmuting something? So the usual story says that psychedelics just cause hallucinations, noise.
Well, hold on. DMT specifically, your brain produces it right before you die, and every single living creature produces DMT too.
Neurons, but this piece says that that's wildly insufficient because DMT experiences don't feel random, they feel rule bound. So it talks about something called
Yeah, because you have people that live the same experiences. So usually, what you get with psychedelics, and I guess he said mushrooms, but it's psilocybin. It's not DMT. There's a documentary called "The Spirit Molecule" where a this is explained to a greater extent. You have people in very, very different settings. So, this was done in a research lab for research purposes. So you had this guy being like in a sort of a clinic with a nurse, very, very formal setting. And you have people that, same as any other psychedelic, they they do it on their own at home, chilling, whatever the fuck. The thing is that the reports of experiences from people is very similar. So you got this is where the rule bound aspect comes into play. So you have people having the same types of experiences with absolutely different types of settings. And if you know something about psychedelics, you would know that the setting is super important. If you have like anxious feelings and you get psychedelics, it might multiply those anxious feelings and you might have a bad trip. So it's important that you have a good setting, you feel good, you're around people that you trust. I think it's good. So you're gonna have a good experience. So you have to control the settings to make sure that everything goes well. But the thing here with DMT, the way that it takes you out of your body for your experience, and for the short burst of time that it lasts, you live something that is out of this world. And even if you don't participate in the same type of settings, you're gonna see the same type of creatures. This is what has been reported on so far.
mere mind theory that treats consciousness as a layered, recursive, and compressed version of the world around us. In plain terms, it means recursion means patterns inside of patterns inside of patterns, and that's what the brain is sort of getting stuck on, like these fractals. Whereas our normal awareness is a narrow band built for survival, language, and not for stepping into traffic. So the brain runs a filter to be normal. Here it's tied to the default mode network, basically the mind's narrator dampening the field. When DMT shuts down, the constraints lift. So in this model, DMT is more of a gate, meaning that it widens the recursive depth that our brain can go through. More cognition happens per moment. That's why 5 minutes can feel like a century, I guess, when you're on DMT. I haven't done it myself, but with symmetries and motifs repeating like a grammar, and the entities that people talk about seeing all the time, well,
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different descriptions for these entities.
That kind of makes sense
Very
if they're
interesting.
framed as emergent agents, fragments of agency that stabilize when the observer boundary softens. So the idea is that ordinary consciousness is a carefully maintained tunnel, and DMT briefly turns on the lights outside of that tunnel. It takes off the filter of reality. And to go along with that, there was a study that just came out. It was led by Alex Kwan and collaborators that provides the first precise map of how psilocybin alters brain circuitry. So it's looking at the synaptic level, and it uses a genetically engineered rabies virus as a one-step neural tracer. So the researchers were able to track which neurons rewired after psilocybin exposure in mice. Pretty wild stuff. It revealed that not just some change occurs, but exactly where that change is occurring. And the core findings are that psilocybin caused an organized network specific rewiring, not just like randomness everywhere. So there could be some truth.
There's already a whole bunch of studies with that. People use psilocybin for therapy in therapy context because of this specific property. So it's nothing. It doesn't feel that new to me.
To that filter theory, or hypothesis, I should say. Sensory and perception related circuits such as visual, somatic sensory, motor, and spatial memory pathways were strengthened. Somatosensory? Let me just see what that means. What?
Yeah, that means that you imagine sensations as if they were real. It's inside of your head.
That's like touch, pressure, texture, and vibration. Got it. But it is interesting.
What? All right, my mistake. I barely speak French. I don't speak English, so
Because the study marks a turning point by showing consciousness related change at cellular resolution. It reframes psilocybin as a tool that opens up a temporary window where brain structure follows attention. And the research reveals both the extraordinary healing potential and serious ethical responsibility of changing and rewiring somebody's brain or some rat's brain, leaving future outcomes dependent on how this knowledge is applied rather than on the science itself. Now apply your thumb or index finger to the hype
nice
button,
one.
and I'll see you guys in the next video.
All right, guys. Dylan makes absolute bangers.